All right, so we've got a pretty juicy one for you today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's this new HBO documentary everyone's talking about. You know, the one that says they finally figured out who Satoshi Nakamoto is.
Yeah, I saw that. Crazy.
Right.
It's wild. We had to do a deep dive on this one.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, the articles about it are just, wow, intrigue is an understatement.
Well, it's, everyone and their brother wants to know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, right?
Right. It's like the biggest mystery in tech, like finally getting to the bottom of a real-life digital whodunit.
Totally, totally. And what makes this even more interesting is the guy behind it all, Cullen Hoback, he's not exactly new to this whole digging for the truth game.
He's got that reputation, yeah, going after the really naughty topics.
Exactly. Remember that QAnon documentary he did?
Oh, yeah, how could I forget?
The way he dug into that, the connections he made following all those digital breadcrumbs, he doesn't mess around. So we know he can handle a good mystery. But for anyone who might not be as plugged into the crypto world, why is figuring out who Satoshi Nakamoto is such a big deal anyway?
Okay, imagine this. Someone, maybe in their basement or a garage, right, just them and their computer, they write code.
Okay, I'm with you.
And that code ends up shaking the entire global financial system, like to its core.
Whoa, okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this.
That's the kind of mystique we're talking about with Satoshi, like a lone wolf changing the world.
The ultimate maverick in the shadows.
Exactly, totally unseen, unknown, and then Bitcoin explodes, becomes this massive thing.
And that anonymity just adds to the legend.
No, absolutely. It's like Satoshi becomes this mythical figure almost larger than life, right?
So we've got this documentary coming out claiming they've cracked the code, but the articles we're looking at, they're not exactly giving us a name, are they?
Right. Hoback. He's playing it close to the vest,
Keeping the suspense going.
Totally. But he does say he's got a solid case, calls the reveal surprising and even controversial.
Sounds like he's going for the big reveal, huh? So with all this mystery surrounding Satoshi, there's got to be a ton of theories floating around, right? Like any names being thrown around.
Oh, absolutely. These articles mention online betting markets, people putting money on who they think it is. And there are a few frontrunners, it seems.
Oh, really? Like who?
Well, there's Lynn Sassaman, a brilliant cryptographer, unfortunately passed away in 2011. Then Hal Finney, a major player in the whole cypherpunk movement. He actually received one of the very first Bitcoin transactions ever.
Wow, that's early adopter right there.
For sure. Then you've got Adam Back, another big name in cryptography, really understands the tech behind Bitcoin. And then, of course, there's Nick Szabo.
Szabo, that name rings a bell. Wasn't he involved in some early digital currency stuff?
Yeah, he actually created something called BitGold, predates Bitcoin, but it had some pretty similar ideas.
Okay, BitGold. Now that's new to me. I bet some of our listeners might not be familiar with that either. Can you break that down a bit?
Yeah, so BitGold was this concept that Szabo, who we just talked about, came up with way back in the late 90s. And it was a digital currency system, and like Bitcoin, it used cryptography to prevent stuff like double spending.
Double spending, so like making sure you can't spend the same digital coin twice. Clever.
Exactly. And while BitGold never really, took off like Bitcoin did.
Understatement of the century, maybe.
Right. But it was a huge step. A lot of people see it as like a precursor, paved the way for what Satoshi would eventually accomplish.
Wow, it's amazing to think about these pioneers already playing with the potential of digital cash back then. So we have the front runners, the early ideas, but not everyone's buying into the hype, are they? Some people think we might never actually know who Satoshi is.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some skeptics out there, and for good reason. If someone goes to such lengths to stay hidden, especially in a world as transparent as blockchain, it makes you wonder, can we ever really know for sure?
Right, it's like trying to find a ghost in the machine. Speaking of ghosts, what about that inactive Bitcoin wallet everyone talks about? That's always been a huge part of the mystery, right?
Oh, absolutely. That wallet, it's thought to hold a massive amount of Bitcoin from the very early days. And it's just been sitting there, untouched.
So if Satoshi wants to stay anonymous, wouldn't touching that be like a dead giveaway?
Exactly. That's a major point for the skeptics. Moving even a little bit of that Bitcoin would be like sending up a flare. Everyone would know it was them.
And yet here we are on the cusp of this big documentary, and wouldn't you know it, an old Bitcoin wallet from those early days suddenly springs back to life. It's almost too perfect, like something out of a movie.
The timing is definitely, well, let's just say it's interesting. And the amount of Bitcoin that was transferred, not insignificant. It really makes you wonder. Pure coincidence. Or maybe, just maybe, someone wants to stir the pot a little, especially with this documentary dropping.
It really makes you think, let's say this documentary comes out, Hoback's got the receipts, we finally get a name, a face, everything. Does that change anything about Bitcoin itself?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, technically, Bitcoin is built to run on its own, right? Nobody's at the helm.
So centralized, correct.
Exactly. It doesn't matter who started it. It's like a ship that's already sailed.
But I don't know, there's something about Satoshi, the myth, the legend. It's powerful.
It totally is. For a lot of people, Satoshi is this icon, like a lone genius fighting the system.
And what if that's not true at all? What if they pull back the curtain and it's, I don't know, just some guy?
Right. Or what if they don't even believe in Bitcoin anymore? Or what if it's even more complicated than that?
What do you mean?
What if it's a group of people? Or a government experiment gone rogue? The possibilities are wild.
It's like, no matter how big an idea gets, sometimes its beginnings are kind of messy and complicated.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that as cool as it would be to know who Satoshi is, the bigger picture is way more important. Like, think about the internet.
Okay, yeah, good point.
We don't spend all our time obsessing over who invented it, right?
Yeah.
What matters is how it's changed the world.
The impact it's had makes you think, sometimes the idea is bigger than the person behind it, even if we never know who they are.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So as we wait for this documentary, it's worth asking, will knowing Satoshi's name hurt Bitcoin? Will it take away from that decentralized ideal? Or will people see past the origin story and embrace the tech for what it is? A lot to think about.
Man, that's quite the deep dive. So many layers to this story. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Here's a question for everyone to chew on. If you knew for sure who Satoshi Nakamoto was, would it change how you feel about Bitcoin? Would you trust it more? Less? Or does it even matter because the tech itself speaks for itself? Let us know what you think.
There you have it, folks. Another deep dive in the books. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. Until next time.